Hello, I'm Dave. I'm from 95.7 The Spin, and we are here with a very special guest today. This artist is based in Indianapolis, and he is a songwriter and producer, formerly the lead singer of Margot and the Unclear Souls and Souls. He is back with a new album called Nepo Babies Take Manhattan, and we are here to talk about the record, his creative process, and what is next for him. Please help me welcome my guest, Richard Edwards. We are going to talk about your new album. Personally, for me, I listened to this album. It's one of my favorite releases of this year. So the title is called like Nepo Babies Take Manhattan. So what inspired that name?
The first moment I thought about it, other than thinking maybe it was a little bit funny, and it was a play on obviously like Muppet Babies and things like this.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, we've all experienced probably an uptick in feeling like the people who have access to the cultural centers of power got there maybe by mom and dad sometimes, but even more so than that, through any sort of thing that's not merit based, I guess, or them working hard at what they do. I mean, not that some nepo babies are amazing and talented, uh,
Uh,
but I think we live in a country that's more and more being offered up to people who already had access to the things that they want, rather than people who are aspiring to that access.
yeah, it kind of reminds me, like when I heard of this title, I thought of the Muppets too. So, that was very,
Goal
that
successful.
was very creative, a creative input. And what was the creative process of making this album?
Well, this one was a lot different than the ones we've done in the past. I've generally been someone who writes for over a long period of time, a couple years for a record, or the last few things I've done have really kind of almost taken that to an absurd level, like very micro. For this one, I got sick a few years ago with this thing called C. diff. That's like an intestinal thing that almost killed me. It's a challenging thing to deal with and an isolating thing to deal with. And I work with a piano player named Dave Palmer,
Mhm.
uh, who I've been working with since 2018 or 19, who's become my main collaborator, I guess. And he'd been on me for the whole year, just kind of wanted to know if I had songs that we could do. I cold called him years ago, and I think pretty quickly he realized that maybe he was actually enjoying this weird kid and his music project, and we became this kind of musical married couple in a way. So long story short, all year he kind of asked me if I had stuff, and all year I said, "Man, not really," and I'm not even really feeling up for it emotionally or certainly physically. I can be dormant for a minute, but then something can happen that really gets me going. Like I'll have a conversation that sticks with me or bothers me, or an interpersonal thing will happen. And in November, I think the combination of just a long year of this treatment and not having made music for a couple of years, it's just like having no identity. I've been doing this since I was like 13,
Oh my
and
God.
not have written music for a year and a half was really, that's a strange thing. I mean, it must be like an athlete retiring. Like, what do I do? So anyway, long story short, in November, I just started.
So, like, out of like albums that you have, was this your quickest project that you did?
Yeah, for Margot, we did this thing called Rock Got Domestic with this guy, John Connelton. And because of the schedule and the time, we did that in 10 days, but I didn't write it. It was written when I did a lot of rewriting in the studio. That was the closest analogy, that one.
So behind like the album, have you experienced like any writer's block or a creative block, within like the 6 weeks that you made this album?
Not really during that time. I think something I told Dave and Tom, who was engineering it, was just if you can hold me to anything, like don't let me slow down. Like we had to stop for a blizzard for a week or two. That was a big drag.
What was one of your favorite films and directors?
I could go so long on this, as the shelf I just showed you could evidence. Well, let me try to take it like bite the apple in three bites, I guess. So for directors, um, I guess I'm a tourist, but I'm not. I don't collect directors quite as much as I collect like people collect bands. Most directors for me have sections I love of their work and not. But if we had to say, we'd say Frank Borzaghi, who is a silent director who transitioned through pre-code and kind of into the period that gave birth to noir. He's a very, very romantic filmmaker and was out of fashion for a long time for some of that romanticism. Preston Sturges, if we're thinking like, 30s comedies, there's really no one that wrote funnier in the 30s for the movies than Preston Sturges, and very, very, very smart sense of humor, which is something I like. I've had periods where I'm very obsessed with Val Lewton, who wasn't a director but a producer of some low budget RKO horror movies that he put a very. I like filmmakers who found a way. Martin Scorsese always talks about the studio system being a system of smuggling. You get a gig and the idea is like smuggle as much of you into this product as you can. Val Lewton was kind of the king of that. He was given the title of his film. It will be called this. It will be just about this many minutes. And other than that, do what you want. So he'd write these beautiful movies about, young girls' childhood psychology that's called like Curse of the Cat or the Return, Curse of the Cat People. So someone would go to see the film and be like, this is the most beautiful film about childhood trauma we've ever seen. Why the fuck is it called The Curse of the Cat People? It's like, well, that's the only way you could make the money uh, get the money to make the films is if the titles on a marquee would get somebody basic to go in.
I just want to know, like, in the creative process of making your albums, do those films correlate into your music?
I found that when I get really into the writing and the recording, I don't watch movies at all. I'm like weirdly in work mode. There's like sometimes trash TV on, or I like basketball a lot, so I'll just have games on. But for some reason, I block out that stuff. It's like that's the stuff I need when I'm refueling. It's not the thing I need when I'm driving the jet or whatever.
I mean, what comes from Indianapolis that give you the creativity that you lost into a bigger city like LA?
Man, I wish I had a more polite answer to that because I feel more inspired in those other places. And I wish that wasn't the case. I mean, this has been my home at times in my life, but I also lived most of my 20s in Chicago.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm here because of a medical thing. But if I'm not here at this point in my life, Los Angeles is the place that I am at. That's where my friends live. That's where I feel the most creative and at peace. But here, I don't know. I mean, I don't really live in. I've been so isolated because of this weird illness I'm trying to get through. That this house could be anywhere, really. It's like been stuck in this kind of like Rip Van Winkle situation. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what restaurants exist. A couple. I don't know what bars. To me, I live in the United States of Edwards. Like, so yeah, my motivation comes from the fact that I live in a library. I mean, if I wake up with an idea, I have several books on some shelf where I can just spend all day doing that. And I'm an autodidact. That's how I spend my time. I just learn like I'm in college, even though I'm not.
I want to know, like, when you first started as an artist, I mean, how did the local scene, I mean, Indianapolis' local scene change from where you started to now?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, when I started, I was too young to play in bars. And so a lot of it was like having the bartenders shuffle me straight to the stage so I could play my songs. And then I had to leave because I was not old enough to be in bars. I was, 17, 18. So when we started, there was the patio, which was basically like the Troubadour for Indianapolis. Like it's where you could, if you were a bigger local band, you could fill it up. If you were a mid-sized regional band, you could fill it up. The perfect size room for like good things happening in town and medium things happening coming into town. And we just watched that neighborhood go away, sort of as an arts hub. Some people probably yell at me for saying that because some people still are living in the past where it is an arts hub, but it's not. It's a college kind of strip. There's a lot of great music stuff that's still kind of north, but it just feels like those tumbleweeds in a town that was a little bit more fortified before. Like
Was there a moment where you had to redefine yourself outside of the Margot identity?
it kind of happened like any marriage breaks up. Is there that one moment? You probably could always look at that moment where like, ah, she looked at me different and never kind of looked at me the same way
Mhm.
again. Maybe that was the beginning of it. Or I get very associative, so some of this stuff gets a little metaphor but there's a lot of that stuff. It's like, oh, these two kind of like need to isolate themselves to get their shit done. It's kind of not fun living with a couple.
How does it feel to defend like your vision of a record against people who were trying to reshape it?
So to defend the vision to Epic,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can give you basically the point by point how it went. I mean, they signed us based on some demos of mine, I think. Acoustic demos, not like full band recordings. I don't think they were ever like super into the fact that we had that band. I think they wanted, not to insult them, but I really do think they wanted to have me as a singer, songwriter on their label. But I was really loyal back then, and that's why I kept the band around, which who knows if I should have. But um, so the initial part of it was a breeze because we went to Chicago to record it with Brian Deck, a great guy and a great producer. And Chicago is a far away from LA, and it's a far away from New York, and there's not a lot of checking in on you. So we were there for months and months and months, and did it. We didn't do Broderable because I was being pissy about the song. I didn't like it, or I didn't like. I can be kind of a brat. I didn't like that other people seem to like it so much. So I was like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if we didn't record it? Because that's my sense of humor is like, wouldn't it be funny if I just like destroyed my career as a joke? So we made the records, and the president of the label is this guy named Andy Gershon, and we loved him. He was like I can't remember everything he done, but he was responsible for some big stuff like White Stripes, maybe that's what it was. And I have total apologies if I'm wrong, but he did fly into Chicago at the end of it, put his feet up, and loved it. I was just like, oh, you guys made it. You took a major label's money and you made a psychedelic record. I think it's rad. Like, let's go to. He took us to Publica, which at the time was a very expensive Chicago restaurant. I don't know if it still is. We ate our hearts out and drank like fools. We stopped on the way back to the studio, and Brian bought a bottle of Blue Label. It was this real moment of celebration of like, we finished this major label album. The president seems to love it. Then a week later, our manager called and said they don't want to put it out. They think the song is too slow. You didn't record the broader one. And our manager was a beautiful guy, but I thought it was so strange how compliant he was. We were just like, oh, it happens. Sometimes they shelve records. I'm like, they're not shelving that one because I was out there working.
How did your experience with Creative Control and Margot change the way you approach making music right now?
Yeah, the first version of the band that people would have remembered if they're fans or had been fans would have been like the Dust of Retreat and those Not Animal things that we were talking about. And that was a really big band, and it was a segmented band of ages. Like I was the youngest easily, a lot of older people, um, but in tears. It was like a weird clicky band. Like, everybody isolated. Like, these three were going to sit at the same lunch table every time we stopped to eat. Um, these two can't ever make music with all of us unless they're kind of isolated because they're secretly dating. Like, just a lot of this stuff. And I was done with that kind of thing because that's a very unhealthy way to make creative work, especially if you're the one writing all of it. And the second version of the band that people would know from like Buzzard and that Rock Gut thing and Slingshot to Heaven, that wasn't like that at all. They knew I was in charge. We brought in the musicians I wanted to bring in. One day I'd eat lunch down the street with Ronnie. Next day, Cameron and Ronnie might go down the street. We all were a pack. There weren't any cliques in that band. I mean, maybe it's like the songwriter and the two top people a little bit, but not really. It was like we were all in it together. But they were my songs, but there was still a limitation on. We always brought in like additional musicians, but you still had this core band that you didn't want to hurt their feelings or like if you didn't hear maybe this shouldn't have such and such on it. And the difference is that when I've gone solo, I'm playing with really intense musicians, but they're all musicians who are used to being in sessions where the person that I am is in charge. So it's like they're elevating all of this incredibly, but Dave and I are the ones saying like that was great, but do that this way. Okay.
Yeah.
And before there's more politics in that because you're talking to your friend that way. You're saying. But it's nice to be liberated from that. It's not that you're not being polite to these other musicians. Of course you are, and you're so in awe of what they're doing. but it's a little more streamlined because the power structure is more determined. So I always was in control, but I guess the nice thing about this thing is everybody else, there's never any question about it. I mean, maybe like Dave and I could argue something through, and even Tom, anybody really. But at the end of the day, they know they're there to like do great things they're proud of, but in service of my songs, you know. And it's nice. Sometimes it's nice to have that hierarchy just in place so people don't feel weird or like whatever, you know.
So as for like future plans with the band, where do you stand on that?
I don't know. Everything depends on this abdomen of mine. If things get better, I'd love to go do shows. We're always asked. I mean, it's a lot of money that I've lost over the years not being able to do that stuff. So yeah, I'd love to go play some of these solo things that I've never gotten to do live. Even to start, it would be great to do them in real cities. Like it's doing really well in London for some reason, like no clue why. So it'd be great to go over and do that. And we always are in New York, we're always in LA, San Francisco. So yeah, if I can get this thing figured out, it would be nice to do little bursts like that and then spend the other time like I probably should co-write more than I do. I've been asked to do that through the years and I've always said no because I'm more interested in my own thing and I'm yeah, there's like lots of writing stuff I could be doing that's um all sorts of things, not just music. So yeah, it'd be nice to be able to go out on little kind of promotional adventures for my records, but then maybe challenge myself to be. A few years ago, I was helping a girlfriend adapt a book, and I really liked that experience because it did start to slowly morph into my head, like everything I do, unfortunately. But it was cool to be like, I really want to be of use to you, you know, and not in some like sadomasochistic sense, but like it'd be really nice to help give you my opinion on this if you want it and to help write this thing that you have this idea and vision for. And I'd love to try something like that again where I get with somebody else and it's a real collaboration like that. I've written so much in my life that's been like very solitary work and I'm proud of it. And that's more how I'm suited anyway. But there was something about that year of trying to do that for and with her that made me think, oh, maybe sometimes like getting out of that socially isolated head is pleasant and it can like I don't know. It was a nice feeling. So more of that maybe. It didn't make much sense, but
I mean, I'm honestly looking forward to future Margot stuff. If y'all get together, I'm sure that the audience would love to be forward. To be down with that.
thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think if I definitely think there would be people that would be very excited to see Margot shows. And the weird thing about being stuck in a thing for 10 years is, you know, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, then like fuck that. Why would I want to go do Margot shows? And I still much prefer what I'm doing now, but I'd love to go do some Margot shows. It'd be a blast. I'm proud of those songs. You know, with a few exceptions, I wouldn't feel nearly as embarrassed to go back and do a few of those shows as some bands I can think of to go, oh God, how did I sing back then? Or like it's stuff that pleases me. I could make a set list of Margot stuff that I'd like to play every night. And so yeah, I mean, if I could get my body together, it'd be beautiful to just do Margot shows every now and then, and do solo shows every now and then, do big orchestral things at Largo. There's so many things we could do, and it's all held back by this stupid body of mine that's not behaving. So, yeah, if that fixes all sorts of things.
Talk about the creative process. As an independent artist. So, as a indie artist, what is something that you had to learn from the industry to stay authentic and to making your music?
Well, the thing you learn is that it's either the most important thing to you or it isn't. You know, it's the Kubrick thing. Like when Stanley was pushing anybody, for him not that hard, but for them too hard, and they'd be like, you know, I'm being pushed too hard. His thing was always like, you care or you don't. I think about that every day. So it's like, if what you care about most is what is in your head being on that record, then you fight it like it's a fucking war. You go to war with them, you know. You leak it yourself. You go to the jail if they want to send you to jail. I would go to jail for my records, I would die for my records. And that's why they sound the way they do, for better or worse. Like, I would die for them. And I just know most people wouldn't. And that makes sense. It's a sick way to feel. I don't think they're wrong. Like, it's crazy to fly to LA in the middle of the night, or New York, to yell at the bosses at Sony, who have billions of dollars, to say, put my record out, I'm gonna fuck you up. That's
Yeah.
insane. But I would do it over again 50 times, because all that matters to me is that these things are my vision. If I was making films, it'd be the same way. If I was writing books, it'd be the same way. That's not to say that you're not collaborative, because so much on Nepo Babies is how I feel when I hear the drums and the piano together, Like, it takes everybody, but everybody, the thing that we're doing came from my head, and it's more important to me than food or water. And people think I'm melodramatic when I say this, but I'm not. Like, I'm an art warrior. Like, if your vision is important and someone is telling you you don't get to have it, you have two choices: like, you're right or they're right. And if you're right, you go to war. And if they're right, you admit that it wasn't that important to you.
Hmm. And that's a good way to put it. Like honestly, honestly, I would hate for my art to be shelved and
Yeah.
being rewritten because I mean I really fought hard for this and for it to be shelved. I mean I would hate for that to happen.
What did Orson Welles say on the Dick Cavett show? He says plenty of other people could have worked on these movies and they may have been better, but they wouldn't have been mine.
Yeah,
That's what it is. And not that he always got his choice either, but they were better movies when he did. And I agree with that quote more than any quote in the world. It's like, yeah, if I wrote with Amy Allen and all the people that write Olivia Rodrigo songs, who I love, uh,
I love her too.
I might be more famous too, but I don't want that for me. I want to be the writer on my things. I want, that's my tourism, to be a prick. It's, my records are my head,
Yeah.
like, for good and ill and everything else, they're my head. And I don't think those Rodrigo records need that to be great, but mine do. Like, unless it's my head, I just don't see what the point is. For her, I totally get it. I don't think it's bad. But it's just different philosophies. I mean, now everyone's co-writing. That's the way everybody does everything. And I feel like one of the last people where you look at my record, if you're listening to it on your phone, you get to the bottom of the credit and it's just my name. And that's so rare when I listen to records. Even records I like, it's so rare to get to the bottom and it not be but
Right, right.
to get to mine, it's always just one name. And I'm proud of that. And maybe that makes me a prick, but I am. That's authorial pride. Like,
Hmm.
I'm the author of all this body of work I made. I'm the author of, and if it's ever looked at, if someone's interested in the whole body, I know that's not that many people there are, but the ones that are, it's authored by someone, and I do take pride in that. And maybe that's like Reggie wanting to stay in Indiana his whole career, even if he didn't quite get a title. It was more important to him for all this work to be his.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel.
What is something that you fans don't know about you?
Uh, Well, it depends on what platform. On Instagram, I'm usually just like making jokes and stories. So those fans maybe know that I'm like funny or goofy or have like a dark sense of humor. And because that's almost everything I do there. But the other thing fans might, I mean, I think people used to be, when we were live, people used to be surprised that I was funny. But that was just because they only knew me through the music. And now that people know me through like my Instagram or things, I think people know that I'm maybe funny. But I don't know. Maybe not everybody knows that, like, I love sports. I love basketball. I think some people know that. I was a basketball player when I was younger. I had to kind of make a choice in college whether to waste my life doing that or waste my life doing this. I chose this. So maybe people wouldn't know how much I like sports. I'm interested in everything. I don't know. Like I said, people that are into my Instagram probably know all this stuff, but people who aren't, I spend more time reading about like Egyptian history or post-war Czech film posters or French workwear from I'm off to a different thing every day.
And Lemon Cotton Candy Sunset is almost 10 years old.
Fuck.
Like the ninth, it had like its ninth anniversary last month. Is there any plans for a 10th year anniversary for that album?
Well, these beautiful guys that used to come see us in Costa Mesa started a label called Positively Records, and they weirdly did like a ninth anniversary vinyl, which is they did it with RTI, so it's like sounds the best that thing ever sounded, and has the demos and big expanded art. So we sort of like blew the like physical version of it, but it'd be nice to do something because it felt like that was such a important turning point, I guess, or pivot point to it feels like the start of everything that my life has become. I mean, every friendship in my life is kind of about what happened with that record. Love relationships I've been in, or people from that city through that experience. So yeah, I'd like to, but what ideas should we do? You have good ideas from you. If we already reissued the
And
vinyl.
honestly, if you put your mind like into anything, the closest thing I can probably say is like have like a mini concert about it or
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
It would be cool to do something. It was a very shitty time in my life personally, but um, it's another record that almost didn't get made because of a physical thing. It's a miracle that it did, and I look back on I'm right at that age where like the horizon line is just a little different than it's ever been, and you're like, oh right, that was like one of the three or four things that changed my life completely. Was that record and that collection of songs and those people I did it with. So it'd be wonderful to honor that because it's very, very dear to me. Yeah.
mhm.
Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, I always forget the years and the records. We made so many that everything gets so jumbled up now, and it's like I never know what anniversaries when.
And when you finally decide to make like new material and things, what type of music do you feel pulled to towards next? Like if anything is forming, like in
Great question. Yeah, I don't know. It's like part of me thinks, well, maybe I just won't do another one for a zillion more years, but then part of me knows if I feel a little better physically, I'll just do it because that's what I do. I've had some ideas to make it more like there's a song on this record called Swiss Wristwatch. I don't know if you know that one that very well. It's like the second or third song on this record, and it
uh,
has a
yeah,
section in it where it's kind of like starts to get a little like flexy and arrogant.
yeah, I know. Hmm.
And I'm liking that more of that stuff. So I'd like to do so much of this record were written around like a phrase, like loops that are forming around a phrase, whereas a lot of my music in the past became real viney. And I think it'd be cool to double down on that sort of I don't even know what I would call that section stylistically. I mean, it's really like aggressive and taunty and almost like nursery rhymey. And I think it'd be interesting to try to make more music like that. It's like weirdly kind of circles around phrases and is really bratty and almost arrogant. And I don't know. I have ideas, but I'm not sure how to say them yet.
Yeah, what you just described. That would be like a great album. Like the concepts that you have so far, and
I'd really like to. The only other thing I'll say is I'd really like to work with Jay Belleros again. One of the things about doing solo records is you feel more like you're casting a film instead of having to use your drummer. That's your drummer. Jay Belleros is the drummer that played on Ghost Electricity Vampire Draw. He played on a couple of the reinterpreted Margot things. He's like like a John Bryan guy
yeah,
um, and I love the drummers we've used since who have been a little more Ringo-y and a little bit more other thing I like. But Jay plays time like time doesn't exist, and it'd be really cool to do an album that's that sort of bratty, like flexy kind of melody stuff, with Jay's kind of like fucking acid by way of like can sort of drumming, and then letting David get as jazzy as David can get, because on this record David gets a little jazzy, but if you ask David to get jazzy, David gets so jazzy he can go nuts. So to do for me to do like a record of shaped melodies that are almost more like nursery rhymes with very strange Jay Belleros drumming, very jazzy Dave Palmer piano, and maybe even like uh, some brass horns, maybe even. That's what I want to
I look forward to
do.
concept of this album. But to wrap things up, after making Nepo Babies Take Manhattan, what do you understand differently now than when you first started?
These are such great questions. I don't think these are beginner journalist questions. These are better than most people ask. Well, I mean, there's a certain, I mean, something that's not very attractive to say is like a little bit of pride that just it happened, you know. It's like I felt so bad. A few months ago, not only did the vinyl, like the thing I'm holding, not exist, like the songs didn't exist in the world. That's
Mhm.
insane, like you always go like 2 years and it's like, well, the record might never exist if I died, but the songs, like there's demos from the years. This was like nothing existed and then it existed. And so on a selfish kind of human level, it's pride. But the other thing I learned, I guess, is like I, I think like city energy matters more than I ever thought. Like I hear Los Angeles and all those records so much, like so much that it can make me like disarmed and emotional. I hear Philadelphia. I mean, I hear the city, like the people that are on this record, the energy, like the brattiness. It's not as languid. It's a little bit sharper edged and more like fuck you, even in the playing. And that's Philly, It's we recorded in Kensington. It's like a land of zombies. It's a dark place. As far as like it can get scary.
Mhm.
But also that darkness is really exciting because it's simultaneously a very scary neighborhood, but a very vibrant and energetic one. And I hear that stuff on the record, and I talk to Dave about it. And like, am I a hippie? Am I crazy? It's like, no, it's why it sounds like you put all the other ones we made on, and yeah, they sound like California. So yeah, the fact that like your location matters so much was so interesting. And then I guess lastly, just if you put your mind to it and you work hard, you can write these things faster if you're inspired. Not always, you know, but if you're inspired and you feel like you have this thing burning, my suggestion to anybody would be like, go as hard at it as you can while you feel that, because all these feelings we have, they leave us, and someday they leave us for the last time. So anytime we feel that heat, we have to make something out of it, like as passionately and violently as we can. And that's like my entire philosophy in life, I think.
Yeah. City musical presence is really big yeah, and a lot of genres, a lot of bands, and a lot of songs really represent that. Really concludes this interview. Richard, thank you so much for having the I mean,
I guess.
I really want. I mean, thank you for having. I want to say thank you for letting me have this opportunity to talk with you personally about this album, past work and where you're going next.
Well, thank you, Dave. This is really fun, and these were great questions, legitimately. And I don't lie about that stuff. I tell people when they suck, and you're great.